The news hit Europe like a thunderclap, reverberating through every city, every home, and every institution. Overnight, the continent was thrust into a state of collective disbelief, as if the very ground beneath its feet had shifted. The announcement was simple, yet seismic. Hungary and Greece to join BRICS. Two nations, long considered pillars of the European project, were now turning toward a new alliance, one led by Russia, China, and other rising powers. The headline sent shockwaves through financial markets and the European Parliament alike. Investors watched in horror as the value of European stocks nosedived, and politicians scrambled to make sense of the unthinkable. The DAX plummeted, the euro tumbled, and traders scrambled in disbelief. The financial heart of Europe was suddenly gripped by fear, uncertainty, and a sense that the rules had changed overnight. In Brussels, confusion and betrayal reigned as leaders asked, "How did we not see this coming?" The sense of unity that had defined the EU for decades now seemed to be unraveling before their eyes. The EU's image of unity shattered as two members pivoted toward a bloc led by Russia and China. The symbolism was impossible to ignore. The European family was fracturing, and the world was watching. This wasn't just a policy shift. It was a declaration that the old global order was over. The balance of power, once thought unshakable, was now in flux, and the consequences would ripple far beyond Europe's borders. The lines between East and West, between established and rising powers, had been redrawn overnight. Centuries of history, rivalry, and cooperation were suddenly being rewritten in real time. Suddenly, the very idea of European unity felt fragile. Ordinary citizens, once confident in their shared future, now questioned what tomorrow might bring. Conversations in cafes and living rooms turned to worry and speculation. The implications for trade, security, and identity were staggering. Would borders close? Would alliances shift? Would the freedoms and prosperity Europeans had long enjoyed now be at risk? The world had changed in a single day, and no one knew what would come next. As night fell across Europe, a continent once united now faced an uncertain dawn, its future more unpredictable than ever before. In Budapest, Prime Minister Viktor Orbán addressed the nation with a sense of urgency and conviction, framing Hungary's decision as an act of sovereign self-preservation. He stood before the press, flanked by national flags, and made it clear that this was not just a political maneuver, but a defining moment for Hungary's future. "We choose a path of mutual respect and national sovereignty," he declared, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Joining BRICS is about embracing the world, not abandoning Europe." Orbán emphasized that Hungary's move was not a rejection of its European identity, but a bold step toward a more independent and globally engaged future. He argued that Hungary must have the freedom to chart its own course, free from what he described as overreach from Brussels. Meanwhile, in Athens, Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis addressed the Greek people against the iconic backdrop of the Acropolis. He spoke candidly about the economic hardships Greece had endured, recalling the scars left by the debt crisis and the years of austerity that followed. Mitsotakis explained that the decision to engage with BRICS was driven by necessity, not ideology. "We must secure our economic destiny," he said, addressing a business summit filled with entrepreneurs and investors. "BRICS offers new markets and vital investments." Mitsotakis highlighted the opportunities for Greek businesses to expand beyond traditional European markets, and the potential for foreign investment to revitalize key sectors of the Greek economy, from shipping to tourism and technology. For Orbán, the decision was deeply ideological, an assertion of Hungary's independence from Brussels and a clear rejection of what he saw as EU interference in national affairs. He argued that Hungary had the right to pursue its own interests, even if that meant breaking ranks with the rest of the European Union. For Greece, the move was pragmatic, a calculated effort to escape the cycle of economic dependency and find new partners who could offer tangible support. Mitsotakis and his advisors saw BRICS as a lifeline, a way to diversify Greece's economic relationships and reduce vulnerability to future crises. Both leaders skillfully tapped into a wellspring of national pride and lingering resentment toward the EU. In the streets of Budapest and Athens, crowds waved Hungarian and Greek flags, some expressing frustration with years of perceived neglect or heavy-handed policies from Brussels. The sense of reclaiming control over their own destinies resonated deeply with many citizens. The promise of Chinese investment and access to new markets was a powerful lure for both countries. Delegations from China and other BRICS nations arrived with offers of infrastructure projects, trade deals, and financial support, presenting a compelling alternative to the often stringent terms of European aid. For Hungary, the decision was about asserting sovereignty and making a stand for national values. For Greece, it was about economic survival and the hope of a more stable, prosperous future. Both leaders faced difficult choices, weighing the risks and rewards of stepping outside the EU's traditional sphere of influence. The move was a calculated gamble, born from years of tension and frustration with Brussels. Diplomatic meetings grew tense as EU officials warned of potential consequences, but both Hungary and Greece stood firm, determined to pursue what they saw as their best interests. This was not a divorce from Europe, but a bold pivot to a new future, one that sought to balance old alliances with new opportunities. By reaching out to BRICS, Hungary and Greece signaled their intent to play a more active role on the global stage, forging partnerships that could reshape their economies and their place in the world. The lessons of the past decade, economic hardship, political strife, and the limits of EU solidarity had led them to this crossroads. Now, Hungary and Greece are charting a new course, hoping that by breaking ranks, they can secure a brighter, more independent future for their people. To understand the shock, you need to know what's at stake. The EU is a union of 27, now perhaps 25, nations, built on shared values, a single market, and a common currency. Members give up some sovereignty for collective strength and prosperity. The EU's strength is its integration, but that's also a source of friction. BRICS is different, a loose coalition of emerging powers: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and now more. It's about economic cooperation and challenging Western dominance, not shared values. BRICS members don't interfere in each other's politics. For Hungary and Greece, chafing under EU scrutiny, BRICS's hands-off approach is appealing. The EU is a club with rules. BRICS, a forum for sovereign interests. The contrast couldn't be starker. That's why this shift is so seismic. This isn't just about economics, it's a clash of worldviews. The EU stands for integration, shared rules, and a common European identity. Members sacrifice some control for peace and prosperity, but for some, the cost, loss of national identity, has become too high. BRICS, by contrast, is about sovereign nationalism and multipolarity. It doesn't demand conformity or shared values, just cooperation. Hungary and Greece have crossed from a club of integration to one of autonomy. It's a choice between two visions: unity through shared values, or strength through sovereign diversity. The world's reaction was immediate and polarized. In Brussels, leaders condemned the move as a historic mistake and warned of consequences. Washington saw it as a direct challenge to Western leadership and NATO security. Moscow and Beijing celebrated, hailing the decision as proof of the West's decline. For Russia and China, it was a propaganda victory and a sign of a shifting world order. Emerging economies watched with a mix of hope and anxiety. Some saw new opportunities, others feared instability. The global balance of power was shifting before everyone's eyes. The world had become more complex and more unpredictable overnight. The economic fallout was swift and brutal. European markets plunged, especially banks exposed to Hungary and Greece. Borrowing costs soared as investors feared defaults and downgrades. In Budapest and Athens, the streets erupted. Some celebrated newfound independence, others mourned a lost European future. Protests and counter-protests revealed deep national divides. Opposition parties called for no-confidence votes, accusing leaders of reckless adventurism. Even ruling parties saw internal cracks. The decision had torn the social fabric in both countries. Leaders now faced political storms at home. The path forward was dangerously divisive. Beyond the chaos, Europe faced a deeper crisis, one of identity. For decades, the EU was about more than economics. It was about forging a shared European consciousness. Hungary and Greece's move challenged the very meaning of European. Is Europe a set of values, or just geography and history? Leaders now debated whether to push for deeper integration or allow more flexibility. The soul of Europe was at stake: unity versus sovereignty. This was no longer just about policy, it was about what it means to belong. The future of European identity hung in the balance. Experts warn that the road ahead is not only risky, but also filled with unprecedented opportunities. As the world stands at a crossroads, the decisions made today will echo for generations. The landscape is shifting rapidly, and those who can adapt may find new paths to prosperity, while others risk being left behind. Security analysts are sounding the alarm about a potential crisis within NATO. The alliance, once seen as unbreakable, now faces internal doubts and external pressures. How can member states trust each other when some are forging closer ties with Russia and China? The very foundation of collective security is being tested, and the world is watching to see if old alliances can withstand new realities. Economists are equally concerned. The recent actions of Hungary and Greece have torn holes in the EU's economic fabric, raising fears of instability spreading across the continent. These fractures threaten to unravel years of integration and cooperation, making the future of the European project uncertain. The specter of a new debt crisis looms large. Financial markets are on edge, closely monitoring other vulnerable countries that could be next. Investors are nervous. Governments are scrambling. And the risk of contagion is real. The world remembers the pain of past crises, and the stakes are higher than ever. Yet amid the turmoil, some see a rare opportunity for meaningful reform. This could be the wake-up call the EU needs to reinvent itself, creating a more flexible, accountable, and resilient union. Leaders are debating bold new ideas, hoping to turn crisis into catalyst for positive change. One vision gaining traction is the Europe of Nations model. This approach seeks to balance the benefits of cooperation with the need for national sovereignty, allowing countries to work together while preserving their unique identities and interests. It's a delicate balance, but one that could redefine the future of Europe. Meanwhile, for the BRICS nations, these developments represent a strategic victory. The expansion of their bloc is not just symbolic, it's a demonstration of growing global influence and appeal. As more countries look east and south for partnerships, the traditional power centers are being challenged. Around the world, new voices are rising. Emerging nations and grassroots movements are demanding a seat at the table, challenging the long-standing dominance of Western powers. The call for a more inclusive, multipolar world is growing louder, and it cannot be ignored. The inclusion of Hungary and Greece in BRICS is a powerful signal. It marks the dawn of a new era, one where power is more widely distributed, and no single bloc can dictate the global agenda. Multipolarity is no longer a distant theory. It is becoming reality. The world is entering an unpredictable chapter, where old certainties are fading and new dynamics are taking shape. Every region, every nation is being forced to reconsider its place in this evolving order. Whether this period leads to chaos or renewal will depend on the choices made by leaders and citizens alike. The path forward is uncertain, but it is also full of potential for those willing to seize it. The stakes have never been higher. The world is watching, and history is being written in real time. This isn't just a distant chess game, it will affect your daily life. The global order that brought peace and prosperity is cracking. Jobs, prices, and security are all at risk as alliances shift. For Europeans, savings and freedoms are suddenly uncertain. For Hungarians and Greeks, it's a high-stakes gamble with their future. For the West, it's a wake-up call. The world is no longer following a single leader. In times of change, information is your best tool. The old maps are gone. The future is unwritten. The story is just beginning, and it will shape the world you live in.